This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be in a flower garden where we're going to be putting together flowers. Butterflies are going to be flying around and getting on these flowers. And we're going to be trying to put them together and then pick them because they give us everlasting wisdom. Today we're looking at Lotus. This is from Renegade Game Studios. It's for 2 to 4 players and it plays in about 30 minutes, ages 8 and up. Well, let me show you how it's played and then I'll see you on the other side for my final thoughts. On your turn, you'll take 2 actions, and you have a choice of 3 different things for each of those actions, and you can repeat actions if you like. The first thing you could do is play petal cards. Now when playing petal cards, you can play up to 2 cards of the same flower type into the flower garden as 1 action. In this case, I played 2 of them, that's 1 action. Now if this flower was already in the flower garden, you could not start a new one because there can only be 1 of each flower in the flower garden. Now in this case, you'll see that this says 4, and that tells us that this specific flower only has 4 petals or 4 cards that will take to completely finish the flower. Now a second action you could take is called Move a Guardian. These little guardians everyone has as their own colors. In this case, the red ladybug is mine, and I can move it from off the board onto a specific flower, or I can move it from one flower to another flower somewhere else. This is giving us points towards controlling this flower. This is 1 point, this is 1 point, and this is another one. So now I have 3 points to controlling this entire flower. Now if instead of playing or moving my guardian, I could have actually played another card if I had it. Now when you place the cards, notice there's a little outline of where you place the card. So in this case, I'm going to place it just like this, and we see that there. So this was my first action, playing up to 2 cards. If I had 2 more of these yellow cards, I could have played them both as my second action and completed the flower, but in this case I only had 1, so that could have been the end of my turn as well. Now your third option on your turn as an action is you can exchange cards. Now I had 2 cards left because I already put 2 of those yellow flowers in there. Let's say I didn't like these cards. I can take 2 cards, place them on the bottom of my deck, and draw 2 new ones from my deck, and that would have been my last turn if that was my second action. So let's say at the end of this turn I have these 2 cards in my hand. I could choose to either draw from my deck into my hand, or I could choose to draw from the face-up wildflower deck. Now these are the same types of flowers that you'll be building, but the only difference is these do not have numbers or any guardian symbols. They're sort of neutral cards, but you can use those to try to finish flowers. You can also draw a combination of cards. Let's say I wanted to see first what my first card was from my deck. In this case, it was a lily, the number 6, but I'm looking for the yellow flower. So for my second card, because I draw up to 4 cards at the end of my turn, I'm going to take the yellow flower from the wildflower row. So my last card I would draw is this. Once you are completed drawing for your turn, then any cards here would be replaced. So in that case, the cards in my hand secretly would have been the lily, 2 of these, and the 1 card that was from the wildflower row. Now let's say it got back to me, and the green caterpillar player had also played a single petal card for that flower. Now when it came back to me, let's say I play this one. Now this was the one that doesn't have anything, it was from the wildflower row. This flower would get scored, and let's talk about scoring this flower. First we would count up who has control of the flower. We do that by looking at the number of guardians. Red has 2, green has 1. In this case, red is leading. So they would get to choose one of 2 options. They would either get to take a 5-point token that will be points at the end of the game, or they can take any one of these 3 tiles that has their color on the back of it, of one of that they haven't taken yet this game. I'll go over what these do in just a moment. After the rewards have been chosen, the player who completed the flower by placing the last card on there would get to collect each and every petal card that was on that flower. They will keep it to the side as a score pile. Each of these cards will be worth 1 point at the end of the game. Now, however, if it was tied for control because red has 2 and green actually has 2, then they would both get to pick the reward choice of the 5 points or the special tile, and then the same thing goes with whoever completed the flower would get those petals. And as a flower is being picked, as they call it, and these cards are being given to the person who played the last card, all of the guardians on any of these petal cards will be returned to their rightful owner to be used later in the game. So what do these different tiles do? Well, once you get one, they give you a special ability for the entire rest of the game. The Enlightened Path one allows you to hold 5 cards instead of 4 cards for the rest of the game. The Infinite Growth tile allows you to play 3 or more of the same petal cards as one action, because remember, before you can only play up to 2 cards of the same type as one action. Now you can play as many as you want, as long as they're all on the same flower. And the last one is the Elder Guardian. This would get you a special silver type token of your kind, and this essentially is worth 2 guardians as opposed to 1. Now over the course of the game, if you've been able to obtain one of each of the 3 special tiles, and you control another flower when it's completed, you then will be forced to take the 5 points. Now as the game goes on, remember that there can only be 1 flower of each type out on the board, but there can be many different flowers that people are working on. This will continue until one player picks up the last card of their deck into their hand. That means everybody, including this player, will get 1 more turn. Once the game's over, you score each of these flowers by seeing who has the most control. That player gets to just get these cards as petal cards as 1 point in their pile like before. They do not get scoring tokens for those. Now, if it's a tie, for example, if there's 3 yellows and 3 greens, they would split this evenly, 2 cards to 2 cards. If there was an uneven amount, they would each take an even amount, discarding the odd remainder. You do that for all the flowers here, putting them in their score piles, and then you would do the final scoring. And final scoring happens by adding up the 5-point tokens that you have and getting 1 point for every one of these cards in your scoring pile that you had gotten over the game, keeping in mind that these are all 1 point apiece regardless of the flower type and regardless of whose card it was, keeping in mind also that you will have cards of other players' types, because as you pick these flowers, other players may have been playing on there. Whoever has the most points at that point is the winner. If it's tied, the player who has more cards remaining in their player deck would be the winner. Alright, well there is Lotus. Now, Renegade Game Studios has been on a roll lately, producing the types of games that I love, which are ones that have easy rules, but have a good amount of depth, don't take too long to play, and look and feel gorgeous. This game falls right in that line. I mean, the first thing that you look at when you look at this cover, man, it's been captivating everybody. I've been watching buzz being talked about on Twitter and at Gen Con about how beautiful this game looks, and I gotta agree, this game is amazing looking. The box looks awesome. The art of the flowers look awesome. I even like how even this same type of flower in your hand, the different cards look different. They're shaded different. One might be in the sun, might be a little shaded, and they just look slightly different even though they might look the same, and I think that's really cool. Now the game itself is very light. My wife is not a big gamer. She's been sort of learning more games over the last few years. But she was able to learn this very quickly. Usually it takes her 2 or 3 games to really feel like she knows what she's doing, and she destroyed me every game. Even by the end of the first game, she really knew what she was doing well. So this is a very simple, light game, but there are some good decisions to make. And the game plays quite differently with 2, 3, and 4 players. I like them with all player counts. I can't say that I dislike it with any player count. They just feel very different. With the 2-player game, someone starts out strong on one of the flowers, well, what are you gonna do? I might try to get some cards and try to sneak up and be the one to close the flower, knowing I probably won't beat them for the control, but maybe it's a 7 or a 6 Lily, and I'll get the 6 points and they'll get the 5 points, and maybe I'll even end up better. So there's some things of like, hey, you're gonna go for that one, I might just stay away. So different strategies actually, and it plays differently, and I kind of like that. Some people always talk about how a game scales well. Does it scale well? Does it feel exactly the same at all player counts? This game, it doesn't feel the same, but I actually like that because it actually makes the game feel different with different amount of players, and actually, for me, gives the game more replayability. The game's gorgeous, easy to teach, fun, light, ages 8 and up, really. I taught this to my niece and nephew. They caught on really quick. This is one of those light, fun family games. Now, it's not overly thinky. It's not like a brain burner by any means. It's just simple and light. If you're looking for a light sort of, I'd say like a Zen-like game where it's very peaceful to play, it's very casual. You can play this game very casual, but yet there's some good decisions to make, some hand management, which cards you're gonna get. Are you gonna pull from that the wildflower pile? When do you get from that pile, which doesn't do anything for you other than possibly closing off one? When are you gonna be piling on with your guardian? When you score, are you gonna get some special ability? Or you're gonna get the tokens. At what point do you cross over in the game and say, you know, it's getting a little late, I better start trying to get points and not so much the special abilities? So again, light, but good, interesting choices to make in this short 30-minute game, and I highly recommend Lotus.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.